Daddy Warpig. I am back. That's right, the kick-ass Geekcast for Tuesday, November 25th, 2014. I'm your host, Daddy Warpig, broadcasting from a secret bunker deep underneath the House of Geekery. By the way, you can read me, your host, on my blog, The House of Geekery, daddywarpig.com. Once again, daddywarpig.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. And once again, as always, a list just chock full of topics to discuss tonight, which honestly is kind of ironic because up until a few minutes before the show, I had not as of yet amassed a sufficient number of topics, and then all of a sudden a whole slew of tweets came rampaging across my feed, giving me more material to talk about than I can possibly cover this half hour. So we're going to have to move very, very quickly. One thing I did forget to mention, the Kick-Ass Geekcast is live Monday through Friday, 7 p.m., half an hour. We've also started a new show, Geek Gab, all fun, no work, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a full hour of Geek Gab with guests. We had a great time this last Sunday. If you didn't catch the show, you missed out on some really cool talk. And this next Sunday, I'm hoping to line up great surprise guests. So tune in, listen, and love it. First on the agenda tonight, and I'm mentioning this kind of casually, I want you to know that while I am doing this show, I am also keeping an eye out to my left where my Xbox One console is, because I'm currently playing through Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, I'm not actually playing while I'm doing the show, but there is a secret side quest that requires you to wear a uniform of a cult for 10 in-game days, which is 10 hours. And basically that means you can't do any missions during that time. So the easiest way I've found to get through it is just leave the console on for 10 hours while I go sleep or something. Unfortunately, the Xbox One is very aggressive about when and where it shuts you down. So I can't just sit there, leave it sitting there and walk away. I have to, while I'm working, keep an eye out and make sure it doesn't go to sleep on me. So if you notice me being a bit distracted every now and then, I'm reaching over and tapping my controller so that I can make sure my console doesn't go to sleep. By the way, to all those aunties who were tweeting that Daddy Warpig isn't a real gamer, I just want to say with utmost decency, utmost politeness, utmost kindness, ha ha! Censorship. First topic tonight just came across my tweet, courtesy of Ivy Clover. Apparently, the TechRaptor article on IGDA's Blacklist, their Blacklist, aroused some anger among a bunch of different people. And so they had to go in and edit the article because a bunch of SJWs were pissed off by whatever it was they originally wrote. And I don't know what it was they originally wrote to be able to compare it to the current version to let you know what it is that got censored. But I am irritated. I am annoyed that these SJWs are acting like Orwellian Gestapo thought police by throwing up this blacklist, this list that blocks all kinds of people based solely on who they follow on Twitter. This list that is so incompetently programmed by BDSM Girl that it blocked KFC, Tay Diggs, and a member of the IGDA itself. That's how stupid and worthless this blacklist is. And yet these same scumbag Orwellian Gestapo thought police feel empowered to bitch and moan when they get negative press. Hey, doing something wrong, doing something scuzzbaggy, acting like the secret police of a dictatorship, censoring innocent people, should get you negative coverage. That's the purpose of having a free press, so that assholes like you get negative coverage. They're doing what they're supposed to. And yet, the same SJWs who feel free to lodge vitriolic, nasty complaints. I saw a list the other day, and again, had I been more together before the show started, I might have thought to pull this up, but it was a nasty ante listing the supposed sins of those people who were the seeds of the Blocklist. And it was, they accused these people, there were 7 of them, including RogueStar, including Play Dangerously or Mike Cernovich, including Nero, Milo Yiannopoulos, Adam Baldwin, and so on and so forth. This ante, can I toot my horn for a second? While I was doing that rant, I was also typing in to Twitter's search function so I could pull up the tweet now that I remember it, now that I think I might want to mention it on the air, and I just got it up. I just want to toot my own horn here. I was doing that live while I was also working on the website and typing on the keyboard. Come on, folks. That's just a little bit impressive. I don't know how many of you can do it, but it's fun to do stuff like that. Okay, I want to read you this tweet because it's awesome. This is by SJW Illuminati, the Marxist Illuminati, an anti-scuzzbag, complaining about the seeds who were on the block list. On this list, we've got a conspiracy theorist, a rapist, a distributor of child pornography, a Holocaust denier, a serial harasser, a man who runs a prominent misogynist hate site, a woman who thinks domestic violence is fake. All right? These people, these anti-scumbags think that they can say anything they want. They can say the most rabid, nasty, vitriolic, scumbaggy things. And remember, when the IGDA introduced the block list, they labeled everybody on it as some of the worst harassers on the internet. Worst harassers on the internet. People who stalk women online. People who fling abuse at women online. People who fling profanity, death threats, rape threats online. They labeled everybody who was on the block list as some of the worst harassers on the internet, up to and including Kentucky Fried Chicken. They feel perfectly justified in throwing this out on the Independent Game Developers Association website and tossing out bullshit accusations of child pornography, of rape, of serial harassment on Twitter. And yet, when one single media organization, one single gaming website produces one article that criticizes them, they lose their shit. They go insane. They go rabid and demand that the article be censored to spare their tender feelings. If I had the original article right now, I would read it word for word just to piss them off, because it offends me when people like this, who think they can do anything, who freely, promiscuously label others with the most ugly of labels, feel like they have no constraints and then turn around and slap constraints on everyone else. And that's the entire goal of the Orwellian Gestapo thought police Blocklist. That's what their goal is, to silence people. It is a blacklist. No matter how much that rainbow-haired she-twink, to quote Joe Bitcoin, no matter how many times she changes the source code, no matter how many times BDSM girl modifies her comments, it will still and always be a blacklist. And I have proof. Again, tweets coming across my feed today. We discovered that Raspberry Pi, who sells computers running the open source Linux software, or a modified version of which, has adopted the Blocklist, so that if you are a customer of theirs and you needed to communicate with Twitter, communicate with them over Twitter, you're blocked. If you are a customer of theirs and you had followed them for updates or news, unfollowed. If you wanted to be a customer of theirs and tried to follow them on Twitter, blocked. Raspberry Pi. They think this is genius. They think this is awesome. I can only assume because some rabid dipshit SJW, that's social justice warrior, at the head office, or maybe PR, or maybe their social media office, I don't know, I don't care, decided in their smug, arrogant way that they should block people who are or will be customers. I have seen tweets of people who said they were not making an order that they had already made. I have seen tweets of people who said they were now canceling an order that they had already made. So congratulations, Raspberry Pi, jumping up and down and screaming like a little baby that you don't want people's money is a successful tactic to get people not to give you more money. And they're not. You're welcome. And that's not us. We didn't do anything. We didn't announce a boycott. We didn't say, hey, Raspberry Pi is a scumbag company run by scumbag SJWs. The pros, that is those people who are pro games, pro gaming, pro ethics, didn't say anything. Not one negative word until you decided to adopt the Blacklist. Whoops. That's a self-inflicted wound, assholes, and it's all your fault. And I love seeing that happen to SJWs. And here's another one, a real blacklist. Game Jobs Bot, which is a resource, surprisingly enough, tapping my controller there, sorry, surprisingly enough, a resource for people who want jobs in the games industry, has, in the interests of being more inviting to female developers, has decided to block thousands of females, many of whom are developers or would like to be developers or are looking for jobs. So they go to follow the Twitter account, Game Jobs Bot. Sorry, you're not allowed. You're a subhuman. you're scum, you're blocked. Congratulations, IGDA. You have now done more to discourage women from getting jobs in the games industry than anyone in all of the pros has ever done. You have done more to damage the careers of women in gaming than any pro has ever done. Well, that sure made a difference. Congratulations. I, for one, am sad for those people who no longer have access to resources that they desired in the form of the new computer, in the form of help in job search. My apologies, my sympathies go out to those people. At the same time, I am glad to see that the IGDA's Orwellian Gestapo thought police blacklist is causing problems because it illustrates just what a stupid idea blocklists are. Which brings me to the next segment in a nice little segue. There are apparently people, and I don't know who because I haven't tracked it down yet, but I saw the tweet from Gigi plus Femme earlier. Apparently, there is someone trying to push a pro blocklist. That is, he called it the SJW blocklist because supposedly it is a blocklist to block SJWs. Now, it intended for the use of the pros. Now, this is hilarious on several levels. One, we're winning. We don't need to block them. They're going into psychotic rage fits every single time something happens. We don't need to block them en masse because they're funny and they're incompetent and they're losing. And we have all the logic. We have all the reasoning. We have all the evidence. Corruption in games journalism is real. We have the emails. Collusion between games journalists to suppress certain stories or highlight certain stories or hand out dishonest review scores or censor message boards is real. And we have the actual emails where one journalist says to a group of them, hey, let's all do this. And the other journalists say, sure, that sounds like a great idea. That is the very definition of collusion. And we have the emails that prove it, so much so that a disinterested third party, Jimmy Wales of Wikipedia, took a look at the emails and said, yes, that is collusion. It's not just proof of collusion. It is, in and of itself, collusion. We have the evidence. People have analyzed tweets in the Gamergate hashtag to determine who's abusing who's harassing who is doing bad things. And you know who it turns out to be? Antis. Every single time. Not to say there aren't pros who have done unfortunate things, because there are, but they are far outnumbered by the number of abusive, harassing tweets sent by antis. We have the evidence. We don't need a block list because we're the ones using calm, straightforward, cold logic. So if you're whining, if you're bitching, if you're moaning, if you can't stand engaging in a straightforward, honest debate, you're not a pro. You're an anti. You're the only ones who need to be protected from the truth. So we don't need a block list. Whatever whatever garbage this shill is shilling, we don't need and we don't want. So I don't know who's doing this. It has been suggested that this is a false flag operation, that someone set this up to try to make pros look bad. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's false. Not really my problem. I do know it's not needed. It is useless. And I categorically and laughingly, condescendingly, contemptuously reject any and all notion of an SJW block list. The best evidence against social justice warriors comes from listening to the stupid shit they say. I don't want them censored. I've never want them censored. I want them to be honest. I want everyone to hear what they honestly think, what they honestly believe, what they honestly intend. Because as soon as you do, you realize they're nuts and you go away and deal with sane people, associate with sane people, and let the psychos go off and psycho all by themselves. Here's another case of censorship. Are you sensing a theme today? I did not carefully assemble that theme, like I said, up until the last 10 or 15 minutes before the show began. I didn't have a list of topics yet assembled, and I won't lie, that made me a little bit nervous. But series of tweets came up, I read them. It just happened to fall together that today is all about the censorship. RogueStar Games, the inflammatory game developer, also known as Slade Valena, a Marine, not active duty, a Filipino American, and the developer of a game with his team called FleetCom, has been the source of some of the most inflammatory and yet not harassing or abusive posts in Gamergate among the pros. He launched Operation Vox, which was all about slightly changing some of the things we did with the boycott goal of the day. And because he did it with flamboyancy, because he did it with grandiose proclamations, he brought down a rain of shit on his own head on purpose. This was the point, to see what antis would do, to test their reactions. We got solid information from it, but unfortunately also put him on the radar of every psycho troll the antis have, which is more than a few. And they have, since that time, waged a ceaseless campaign to get him banished, banned, censored on Twitter. They have lied about the things he's done and gotten him banned on no less than 3 different occasions across 5 different accounts. And he has yet still, despite all their claims of harassment and doxing. Now, these are the factual claims being made by pedo butts, by cranberry boobs, by Sith Nixon, by BDSM girl. These are the factual claims they're making, that he doxed people and that he engaged in harassment in violation of the terms of service of Twitter. And yet, he has been restored. He has been allowed back on the site. He has been unbanned. And in this last banning, they didn't even identify any tweets that might have been the source of the original ban, which tells me it was an automatic ban carried out by their algorithm based on false reports from antis who conspired to lie, either between themselves or in collusion with Wham. I don't know which. I'm not leveling any accusations, but these reports have to come from more than one account. conspired to lie to Twitter to get him banned. And how do we know they were lying? Because Twitter reinstated him. And they didn't point out any actual tweets he made that violated Twitter policy. In his last ban before this one, they said you posted public information that was nevertheless might be considered sensitive about people involved in this particular games festival, and so we want that removed because that opens us up to legal liability. So he removed those posts. That was a demonstration that there was some cause, and that if they ask you, if you ask to be reinstated, they will ask you to remove those posts that were valid cause for you being banned, for you being suspended. And yet this last time RogueStar was reinstated, he asked for which tweets violated their policy, and none of them did. No tweets violated their policy, which means he was banned without cause. He did not do what he was accused of doing, and Twitter reinstated him, which says to me that those people involved in reporting him for doxing and harassment were lying, because if it had been true, he would be permanently banned forever. And if it had been half a truth, if it had only been a partial lie to where they were exaggerating maybe something that was marginal or borderline, he might have been reinstated, but be forced to remove the offending tweets. So those are the only three options: innocent, partially maybe guilty, marginally guilty, or guilty. Guilty would have been a permanent ban, wasn't the case. Marginally guilty would have required him to remove the tweets, would have had them identify the tweets, because that's what they did before. Wasn't the case. Full reinstatement, no removal of tweets. Antis lied, and they lied in order to remove someone who has been very public, very inflammatory, deliberately so, in criticism of antis and in planning things the antis don't like, or at least announcing them in ways that make the antis panic, even though there isn't anything really substantively different about what they did. Censorship, banning someone you don't like, lying to ban someone you don't like. This is a constant theme with the antis. This is a constant theme with the social justice warriors. And yes, it's wrong. Orwellian Gestapo thought police tactics are wrong. But I can't help but thinking it is, pardon me while I touch my controller, it is nice of these media organizations, of these trade organizations, of these commercial companies to identify themselves as being pawns of social justice warriors. Polygon at Vox Media, pawns of social justice warriors. In fact, the entire Vox complex of sites was founded to promote SJW ideals and social justice warrioring. Kotaku, part of the Gawker criminal media empire run by SJWs, now we know, absolutely without a doubt. Gama Sutra, same thing. Gamer Ranks, run by Ian Miles Chong, the little Nazi, same thing. IGDA, same thing. Raspberry Pi, same thing. Game Jobs Bot, same thing. All of these individuals and organizations have outed themselves. Before, they were trying to fly under the radar. They were trying to identify themselves as run-of-the-mill progressives, or as liberals, or as whatever cloak of respectability they were borrowing to hide the fact that they are, in point of fact, Orwellian Gestapo thought police who are looking to censor people who disagree, who are looking to drive non-SJWs out of the game industry, who are looking to censor video games, because that's what they do. They censor us on Twitter. They censored people with the Blocklist everywhere. They censor people in science fiction and fantasy. Of course, they're going to censor video games, but now we know who they are. They have outed themselves. Gamergate has pissed them off so much, has sent them into such frothing furies of rage that they can't help but reveal who they really are, and now we know. We know that The Escapist is not run by SJWs. We know, even though it has Movie Bob and had Jim Sterling, the organization was willing to act morally and not attack the pros. And we know that Joystick is willing to change their policies, that IGN is willing to change their policies. They're not being run by SJWs. But all these organizations are. We know who the enemy is. We know who the censors are. We know who the thought police are, who want to prevent people from doing the things that make games fun, from doing the things that make games journalism honest. They have identified themselves. So it's hard on people, and I'm not going to lie. It's heartbreaking to see people who don't get jobs or who lose jobs because of this, but at least now we know our enemies have outed themselves, and we can proceed with a newfound commitment and ruthlessness in doing the right thing. We don't have to worry about who we are aiming advertiser email campaigns at, because we know Gawker deserves it. We know Vox deserves it. We know GamerRanks deserves it. We know Gamasutra deserves it. We know Rock, Paper, Shotgun deserves it. We don't have to worry anymore. And we can start setting up new organizations, new media outlets to replace, to sideline, to invalidate, diminish, and eventually destroy all of these corrupt Orwellian Gestapo thought police organizations. And that, despite all the damage to pros, is, in my opinion, worth it. I'm your host, Daddy Warpig. This is the Kick-Ass Geek Cast for Tuesday, November 25th, 2014. I'm on the air Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for half an hour of news from the front lines of Gamergate, the Kick-Ass Geek Cast. If you like it, subscribe, tweet about it, click on those buttons down below. Also, you can catch me on the House of Geekery, daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com. One post a day of fun, of excitement. Give yourself a little bit of a break from the grind, a little bit of a break from the battle. Speaking of which, Geek Gab, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Me, your host, plus special guests, talk about anything geekish under the sun. Listen, we take questions from the audience in the chat. It was a lot of fun this last Sunday. It'll be even more fun next Sunday, given the secret guests I am trying to line up. And finally, Twitter. Catch me, your host, on Twitter all day, every day, at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. I am signing out for tonight. I will be back.